This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. It's a success, it's really a success. Pu Jinshan seemed to be in disbelief as well. He spread out his divine sense and felt the energy fluctuations within the formation. This array was now connected to his mind and spirit. The surging power was like an undercurrent in a calm sea. As long as he changed his hand seal, it would set off a storm. Pu Jinshan's eyes flashed with a hint of struggle, and he clenched his fists tightly. Rings of subtle yuan qi were raging on his fist wind, and his eyes flickered a few times before he finally calmed down. He gradually let go of his hands and sighed inwardly. At first, he thought of using the array to break free from Yunxiao's control, but Yunxiao's unpredictable ability had left him with a lingering fear. After a few thoughts, he decided to give up. Yunxiao naturally saw all this, but he did not point it out. This formation is indeed majestic. I wonder how powerful it is. Pu Jinshan said confidently, this formation is only the core. Even if a high-level martial emperor is trapped inside, it'll be difficult for him to escape. If we have time to set up an outer formation, we can combine the inside and outside, and even thousands of soldiers can be trapped inside. Oh. Since it's so powerful, I'd like to give it a try. You can use this formation to attack and trap me. I want to test its power. Yun Xiao said casually. Pu Jinshan's heart skipped a beat, and for some reason, his palms were covered in sweat. He nervously guessed that Yun Xiao had discovered something, but his blood began to burn, and he was gradually overjoyed. This is Yun Xiao's own doing. It'll be best if he can be killed, but it's not his fault if he can't be killed. Let's get started, Yun Xiao said. Drive the array's strongest power and attack for 3 rounds, then turn the defense to the maximum. I'll break the array. Yes. Pu Jinshan responded loudly, and his figure suddenly began to move. His magic arts were like butterflies dancing in the garden, shuttling around his body and constantly entering the surrounding void. The atmosphere in the entire formation changed. The calm sea began to surge under the push of power, and waves began to rise. Yun Xiao stood quietly in the array. The array was in his divine realm tablet, and all the power of the 5 elements in heaven and earth that it could mobilize was under his control. Unfortunately, Pu Jinshan did not know that. He even excitedly mobilized all his power and slowly directed it around Yun Xiao, making him the center of the attack. In order to prevent Yun Xiao from discovering the great power of the array and changing his mind at the last minute, he did everything in secret, thinking that he had done it without knowing it. Finally, everything was ready. It was like the moment before the storm, extremely depressing. Yun Xiao was also surprised. The power of the undercurrent was already above his estimation, and it had definitely reached the level of a high-level martial sovereign. Lord Yun Xiao, it's starting. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Pu Jinshan's eyes. With a loud shout, he produced a ray of colorful light from his hands and sent it into the formation. Yun Xiao suddenly felt the space around him explode, as if an endless force was pressing down on him, trying to destroy everything. He slowly closed his eyes and began to sense the flow and operation of every stream of power in the array. What? Pu Jinshan couldn't help but cry out in shock, and his face was completely deformed. Under the mighty force that had reached the level of a high-level martial sovereign, Yun Xiao, who was at the center of the attack, was unscathed, and he was even meditating with his eyes closed. He suddenly felt a chill all over his body. Such a strange and unreal phenomenon had appeared in front of his eyes. A large amount of cold sweat rolled down his forehead, and all the fierceness in his heart was swept away. Pu Jinshan changed the incantation gesture in his hand, and the violent power of the 5 elements in his body continued to stack and generate, each wave higher than the last, as they slammed toward Yun Xiao. He still didn't open his eyes. At this moment, Pu Jinshan began to suspect that what he was seeing was not a real person, but an illusion. But no matter what, he could no longer raise any resistance. He respectfully said, Lord Yun Xiao, be careful with your final move. I'll transform into this Levi's atavism, true body. He changed his hand gesture and put his two hands together. A ray of green light gently revolved around his fingertips. Yunxiao finally opened his eyes with a look of horror on his face. In the space inside the boundless array, a white Libai fish came down from the sky. Its body was enormous, and the aura it exuded was vague, seemingly strong but not strong. It was just like Libai's soul, but countless times stronger. True spirit. According to Piyu Jinshan, Libai's ancestor was indeed a true spirit, but how could he return to the true spirit realm? However, he soon discovered that something was wrong. This huge Libai fish was not a physical entity, but an illusion. However, it made him feel that it was extremely real. Turning the void into reality? This term appeared in his mind again, and he immediately shook his head. Even Tian Si did not possess the power to materialize illusions, but the illusionary figure was truly something that he could not understand. Yunxiao raised his hand, and a sword beam condensed at his fingertip, then he slashed it out. Boom! The Libai fish was cut in half, and the illusion disappeared. The pressure that seemed to be there was also gone. The fish soul in the array suddenly became a little violent and kept swimming. Piyu Jinshan was completely dumbfounded at this moment. He stood there in a daze, completely losing the ability to think. Yunxiao, on the other hand, had a gleam of joy flash in his eyes as he said, "This formation is extremely powerful. With it, we don't need to fear the pursuit of the rhythmical plant essence, and can turn defeat into victory." He made a grabbing motion in the air, and the 5 elements belly white fish fell directly into his hand. He gently wiped away the traces of Piyu Jinshan's imprint on it and began to observe it with joy. Piyu Jinshan stood there in a daze, his eyes blinking. Such an unbelievable ability, would he still be chased by the rhythmical essence? 100 rhythmical plants would have been directly cut off, right? This artifact array is indeed a treasure, Yunxiao said. I'm very satisfied with it. Your life is safe for the time being. If there's nothing else, you can stay here and cultivate. He turned around and disappeared. Piyu Jinshan was stunned for a moment. He wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. It was stuck in his throat and he couldn't say anything. Yunxiao came out of the Divine Realm tablet and went out of the inn. With a powerful array, he could suppress the rhythmical essence even without summoning the Gourd, Little King Kong, and the others. Upper High City was still in a state of panic. Another teleportation formation had been destroyed, and the passage to the outside world was completely cut off. Several forces in the city gathered together and held an emergency meeting. The top priority was to maintain order in the city and send a message to Red Moon City, asking for the alchemist's support to repair the teleportation array. Actually, it couldn't be said to have been restored, because it had been completely destroyed by Lu Ziyuan. It could only be rebuilt. Sigh, I don't know which wicked person destroyed the passage. It will take several months to recover. Yes, it will take several months for the Lord of the Red Moon City to fly over. Sigh, I'm so unlucky. We've just been stuck in Fengling City for a few days, and now we're stuck here for a few months. I can't do business anymore. Yes, everyone, don't panic. Now is a critical time. The war between the Sea Race and US will start at any moment. The entire eastern region must ensure that the transmission is smooth. I think the Red Moon City will soon send people to repair it. Baokuan City is the main city of the eastern region. In a remote and backward place like ours, we may have to wait even longer. On the way, Yunxiao frowned as he listened to the conversation. According to them, it seemed to take several months to get to Red Moon City from here, so it would be very far to go to Haitian Town. He had planned to pack up his rhythmically essence and go directly to Haitian Town. After all, the appointment with Baiming Lifeng and the others was about to end, but now that something had happened in Haitian Town, he didn't know if he could still go out to sea. The reason for this sudden situation was Xiao Hong. It seemed that this battle with the Sea Race had to be fought because Xiao Hong could no longer be returned to them. Especially after he saw that Hu Xingfeng had obtained Yu Yixian's body, the power of the Agarine made him feel fear. As he walked, he raised his head and looked at the concealed rhythmical essence 10,000 meters in the air. A trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, a sentence entered his ears, causing his entire body to tremble. How much is this heavenly jade spider? At a stall not far away, a man in a brocade robe with a piece of fine jade on his waist was choosing a Tianqian spider from a bunch of cages. Many merchants would sell these spiders to various places, and some people would raise them and collect their spider silk to sell. The brocade-robed man was carefully examining a spider. It was of moderate size, not the best in the entire cage. The spider was the size of a watermelon. Unlike the other spiders, it had green spots all over its body. The man kept tapping on it with his hand, as if he was listening to the sound. The merchant looked at him in surprise and became very respectful to the man in brocade. This lord is also a martial arts master, right? Although these spiders don't have any offensive capabilities, they are all class 4 demonic beasts. We also need to use special chains to tie them up so that they won't attack people, but even so, they are still unruly and very few people dare to hit them like this. Are there any more of these spiders with green spots? The man in the brocade robe nodded. The merchant smiled and said, this green-spotted spider is a mutant. However, the silk it spits out is no different from that of ordinary spiders. It's rarely seen. I'm probably the only one in the entire Upper High City who has one. It's rare, but I can't sell it for a high price. If you want it, you can take 50,000 mid-grade origin stones. The man in the brocade robe threw out 50,000 medial-grade primordial stones without saying a word. He took out a beast-taming item and put it in it. He turned around and was about to leave when he suddenly saw someone from the corner of his eye and could not take another step. Yun Xiao looked at the man in the brocade robe and said with a wry smile, it's really a small world. I didn't expect to see Master Jianbo in this kind of ghostly place. The man was Lu Jianbo, who had lived for a long time. The moment he saw Yun Xiao, his calm eyes turned into surprise and fierceness, then slowly turned into shock, and then extremely solemn. You've advanced to the rank of a martial supreme? Thank you, Mr. Lu, Yun Xiao said with a smile. I'm grateful for your help. A strange expression flashed across Lu Jianba's face as he said, actually, we're friends, not enemies. We can sit down and have a good talk. Yun Xiao smiled. If you don't want to kill me, Mr. Lu, we are indeed friends, not enemies. I've learned a lot from the thunder art you gave me. Oh. Lu Jianba sized Yun Xiao up and said, you've collected 5 types of mutated lightning? It's not that easy. Yun Xiao shook his head. It's already a lucky chance to get 1 or 2. He looked at the big spiders in the cages of the merchants on the roadside and laughed. I didn't expect Mr. Lu to have a hobby of raising spiders. Humph. Lu Jianba waved his long sleeves and snorted heavily, young Master Yun, can you sell me that iron tier? Although there were some unpleasant things in the past, people always look forward. Yun Xiao smiled. Let's not talk about the past. But, although I don't know what the use of iron tears is, at least I cherish them. I want to study them more when I have time. Lu Jianba didn't get angry. He just said indifferently, so there's really no turning back? What if I don't? Yun Xiao's smile faded. What if I don't? Lu Jianba raised his eyes and stared at him. If I'm not wrong, young Master Yun has a lot of secrets. The moon pupil and the imperishable golden body seem to belong to Gu Feiyang and Ao Chongkong, respectively, right? Yun Xiao's pupils constricted, and a hint of killing intent flickered in his eyes. Although he had fewer and fewer taboos now, if his imperishable golden body was discovered, he was afraid that Ao Chongkong would be drawn over, and he would have no way to escape. Lu Jianba's face was still calm as he said, I don't want to be your enemy, and I know that there are some methods. But if you think that you can defeat me with this, then you are ignorant. Yun Xiao's face turned cold as he said, oh? Whether or not we can defeat them isn't something that can be decided by words. Lu Jianba pointed to the sky and said, that person is chasing after you, right? If you can sell iron tears to me, I'll drive him away for you. I can deal with that man myself, Yun Xiao said. There's no need to trouble Mr. Lu. If Mr. Lu really wants that iron tear, you can tell me its use and I might consider selling it. The more mysterious you are, the harder it is for me to part with it. Lu Jianba's face revealed a look of surprise as he said, "Can you defeat the peak 7-star martial sovereign in the sky? It seems that your improvement is even above my expectations." He pointed at the spiders for sale on the street and said, "I need the complete body of this monster beast. Originally, I was planning to use this as a replacement if I couldn't find any iron tears, but if you can give me the body, everything will be fine. There are quite a lot of this kind of crab shell demon beast with many legs, right?" Yun Xiao asked suspiciously. "Do you really want that iron tear?" Lu Jianba revealed a bitter smile and said, "I can't disclose any more details, but if young Master Yun can give me the iron tears, I can give you a great opportunity." Oh. Yun Xiao's interest was piqued. Mr. Lu isn't an ordinary person. He's the Qian who you call lucky. Lu Jianba hesitated slightly and muttered, "I'll have to think about this for a while. First of all, your strength must be at the level of a high-level martial supreme before you're qualified to take on this opportunity." Yun Xiao was even more confused. He frowned and sneered, "Mr. Lu, you can't be thinking of tricking me of my iron tears, right?" Lu Jianba knew that it would be hard to convince the other party with such words. He thought for a moment before saying, "Young Master Yun, you've seen a lot. Have you ever heard of the saying, when the natural moat order is out, the martial arts will be gone, and there will be clouds everywhere? Who can compete with you?" Yun Xiao trembled and cried out in horror, "You have a natural moat token." A strange look flashed across Lu Jianba's face. He said, "I didn't expect that young Master Yun would know about the natural moat token. Then I won't say anything more. One natural moat token in exchange for iron tears." "I agree," Yun Xiao said without a word. He couldn't be bothered with the street. He threw the iron tear directly at Lu Jianba. Lu Jianba was instantly overjoyed. He hurriedly kept the iron tear. As it was too large, it attracted the attention of countless people. However, Lu Jianba was overjoyed and couldn't help but laugh out loud. The people passing by all pointed at him and secretly called him a madman. "What about the natural moat token?" Yun Xiao asked impatiently. Lu Jianba got what he had been dreaming of and was in a good mood. He smiled and said, "Don't be anxious. I've said just now that you must have the strength of a high-level martial supreme before I can give you this opportunity. The person up there can be used to prove your strength." He looked at Yun Xiao's face, which was turning uglier and uglier, and added, "I already have the iron tears, so I naturally don't want to be your enemy. But since I can issue a natural moat token, I think you can guess my background. I have to be responsible for each of the owners of the natural moat tokens." Yun Xiao's face brightened a little as he said, "You'd better not be playing with me, or I'll make you regret it." He immediately turned into a beam of light and shot up into the sky. Lu Jianba's eyes flashed. He casually grabbed a chair and laid down on the street to enjoy the performance. Huh? Rhythmically Essence, who had been cultivating in the sky, suddenly opened his eyes and saw Yun Xiao standing in front of him. He was stunned and a little puzzled. "What, you've thought it through? Do you want to negotiate with me? Talk about your sister," Yun Xiao said coldly. "Get up and get beaten." Eh? A question mark filled Lu Ziyuan's mind, and he did not know what was going on, but he could still understand that Yun Xiao was going to fight him when he threw a punch at him. Impudent. Lu Ziyuan was furious. He charged up with a roar and the aura on his body spread out, directly destroying the power of that punch and ruthlessly sending it back. Yun Xiao held his spirit and qi, holding his hands in front of him to receive the pressure. At the same time, he was secretly surprised, as if he had underestimated the other party's strength. Lu Ziyuan was angered by his inexplicable actions, and pounced in the air. One hand behind his back was incomparably arrogant, while the other hand circulated his vital qi and slapped out in the air. Yun Xiao cried out as he pushed his palms in front of him and performed an incantation gesture with his left hand. Then, he thrust his right palm forward, and his arm turned golden. Boom. The collision of the two forces shattered the surroundings with a thunderous boom. The veins on Yun Xiao's arms bulged, and his long clothes rustled. What? Lu Ziyuan and Lu Jianba were both taken aback, their eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. Yuan Shao could actually take his palm strike in the air. Lu Jianba's pupils contracted, and he thought in his heart, as expected, he had an imperishable golden body. How was this possible? Could it be that there was someone else other than Ao Chongkong who could cultivate this cultivation technique? Lu Ziyuan's face turned cold as he added some energy to his palm. With a loud explosion, Yuan Shao could not hold on any longer and was sent flying dozens of meters away. Lu Ziyuan arrogantly put his hands behind his back and spun in the air, then kicked Yuan Shao, who was constantly retreating, with his foot like a battle axe. This was the contempt he showed to Yuan Shao in the fury in his heart. 7 stars was the first huge dividing line above Martial Supreme, and those below it were ants. Yuan Shao's face was cold. Just now, it was only his arms that had turned golden, but now, his upper body was shining with a golden light. He quickly performed incantation gestures with both hands, and a green dragon shape emerged, roaring and rushing out. Bang! Under Lu Ziyuan's kick, the dragon was instantly destroyed, and the powerful force broke the defense in his palm and jolted into Yuan Shao's body. He was sent flying dozens of meters again, a stream of blood flowing down the corner of his mouth. You're courting death, so don't blame me. Although Lu Ziyuan had the upper hand in both moves, Yuan Shao's barehanded fight with him had already aroused his incomparable anger. He leaped up, and his body turned into white light that gathered on his palm before he coldly flew down. Since you want to be humiliated as soon as possible, Yuan Shao said coldly, I'll grant your wish. He waved his hands in front of him, and the 5 elements white fish appeared. He threw it forward. The tough body of the 5 elements white belly fish actually swayed left and right in the air, like a gray fish slowly swimming forward. Bubbles were even coming out of its mouth. Circles of light spread out from the fish's body, and the colors of the 5 elements turned into circles of light. It was as if fish patterns were distributed on the body of the artifact. Lu Ziyuan's pupils contracted, but he was confident in his skill and boldness. The other party couldn't play any tricks, so he directly smacked a palm on the 5 elements belly white fish and shouted, no matter how many tricks you have, it's still rustling. He stopped mid-sentence, and a surge of power rippled from the fish. The whole world changed. The profound level weapon spun rapidly under the rhythmical essence's palm. The power of the 5 elements generated and derived from each other, constantly stacking up and shaking the rhythmical essence away. He looked around in shock and anger and gritted his teeth, a ray tool. At this moment, the fight between the two had attracted the attention of all the people in the city. They all looked up, and when Yuan Shao's 5 elements belly white fish came out, it changed the world. All they could see was a hazy light of 5 elements, which kept flashing and spinning. Lu Jianba was stunned for a moment. Then, his face revealed a shocked expression as he muttered to himself, this is a swan and I, the 5 elements origin barrier? He immediately denied it and shook his head, how is this possible? It should be a type of barrier made by a strange object that imitates the 5 elements origin source. His eyes were extremely sharp and he saw the key point in an instant. Inside the 5 elements barrier, Yuan Shao performed an incantation gesture with one hand, and a strange symbol was cast into the void. Immediately, the power of stormy waves swept over. It was the move that Pu Jinshan had used to attack him, the power that could tear everything apart. Good. Lu Ziyuan lightly shouted. The sword in his hand flashed and a cold sword appeared in his hand, slashing towards that force. One sword snow engulfing blew past. The sword chi fell, and a sword ring burst out from his body. The surging power in the surroundings was destroyed as if it were dry weeds and rotten wood. Under the sword ring, it was completely shattered, giving off countless shattering sounds that were noisy to the ears. Lu Ziyuan was secretly shocked. The power of this array tool was far beyond his imagination. He gave a light shout and raised his sword. A stream of sword chi shot into the sky.